Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Lynn Carey and I am here today to discuss with you homeschooling and unschooling and our educational system and what I do. I get asked a lot, and I think a lot of people or parents get overwhelmed when they think of the idea of homeschooling because they think they have to occupy their child for 8 hours a day like school does. So my first thought is, for me it was very simple. I was an honor roll student. I worried about my studies all the time. I brought home all my books because I was afraid I'd forget something and I wanted to prepare for the next day. I was just weird like that. And it wasn't in a good way because I stressed out all the time. Did I really remember what I learned? Not really. Did I ever have to use what I learned? Not really. I mean, even in chiropractic school, what made me a good chiropractor was my own healing journey and learning on seminars on the weekend and studying with other chiropractors outside of school. We had good philosophy in our chiropractic school, but really the classroom work didn't make me a doctor. And so when I thought of my son, and when I got out, I opened my practice in 1998. And by 1999, I was really studying finances because no one taught me how to run a practice. And when I had a radical moment when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I knew at that moment that I wasted my time in school. You can't, and I still, 22 years later, you can't change my mind. I knew I wasted my time in school. It felt off, but of course I only had people telling me that you'll see when you're out that you needed school. And that book basically said school will never teach you to be financially free. It teaches you a bunch of stuff you don't know, not even life skills. I mean, unless you choose to do that. But everybody's so programmed to go to college that I think even in high school and regular school, we don't learn practical skills anymore. Now, after watching this past year, we don't learn right history. We don't learn about the Constitution because they've made our educational system a communist tool to brainwash everybody to be dependent on the government. So we don't know our right history. Science was being disproven as we went. So whatever we were learning, in a couple years it was disproven most of the time. It wasn't accurate. And now we know about quantum physics and quantum healing and all this kind of stuff. I didn't learn any of that in school. I don't even think I learned it in chiropractic school. I wasn't a scientific mind. I more was a feeling person. And so, let's see, what else did we learn in school? Math. Why did I spend my time on algebra, pre-calculus, trigonometry? Why did I spend my time on that? It didn't teach me anything. I never used it again. Never. So English, that's a joke, because we're reading stuff that, I don't know how Romeo and Juliet and reading Shakespeare helps you in life. I never read one book through school. I got through using Cliff Notes and I still got A's because I didn't have the mental capacity to read. I was so bogged down and stressed out with just getting through daily classroom activity and getting homework assignments done. I mean, I just couldn't even focus to read. And everything they taught me to read, there was nothing interesting. I read like a fiend now. I read constantly. I love it. I can't get enough. It's one of my favorite things to do. But that didn't start until I got out of chiropractic school. And I was looking for answers. So, and it's funny because the internet came, it became probably the most mainstream in 1998. That's when I got out. I graduated chiropractic school December of 97, opened my practice March of 98, and that's when I remember internet becoming, like, people I knew had it in their homes. I wanted nothing to do with it. I'm always late to the program because I didn't need one more thing to my life. I didn't see how it could benefit. So that I was already outdated. So everything I learned in school was outdated. And I had to teach myself everything I needed to learn to be successful. So I had to create my own journey. So by the time my son came along in 2006, it was a no-brainer for me. I knew he wouldn't miss anything in school. I wasn't afraid of that. I think some people think, I don't know, they're still stuck in that mainstream thinking. I was already out of it. It disproved itself to me. I knew it wasn't going to make me successful. The Rich Dad, Poor Dad said, you should become educate yourself financially and do personal development work on yourself, basically. So I knew that I wanted to create a path for my son that was going to prepare him for the world. So what we did was I started with I just used a book. Okay, I did go to the state. I asked the state if they had a curriculum that I could use. They did not. They were no help to me at all. And even then, I don't even think I should have checked them in at all. But at the time, I still had a little bit of fear that what if my son wants to make choices later that he needs to be in mainstream world, so I should have him registered that I'm homeschooling. So I did that, and basically, the state just made me register that I'm homeschooling him, that I start in September and end in June. You know, that's all I do is check in twice a year. So I went to Barnes & Noble. I got a book, What a First Grader Needs to Know. And I didn't even do anything before that, like kindergarten and all that. I mean, I just let my son be. People want to start in preschool and kindergarten, and they're young. Let them play. They just need to play and just need to be, right? Even I started him, he started taking art classes when he was 3 and jujitsu at 3. I would have waited a couple years, you know, but you would still get that outside pressure. There's this outside pressure to structure a child right away because it's a fear that they don't have guidance, that they're going to be behind, which is so ridiculous. The ones who are smart are the ones who know how to occupy themselves, be creative, be free, think for themselves. So I always just followed my son's interests. Before that, so he took art. He loved his art lesson every week, and she was a person who just let him express himself. And he ended up staying with her for like almost 10 years, you know, having this art lesson once a week. And almost became art therapy. He would express his emotions while doing the art with her, and totally self-guided. It was amazing. He did jujitsu, he did baseball, and I never pushed him. Like, you might have thought I was one of these parents and said, you gotta have all these things. I didn't. I was just like, is it fun? He's like, yeah, I want to keep doing it. I mean, I could barely keep up with all the activities he was doing, but he loved it. He did music. And then the schoolwork, we just did twice a week for a couple hours, if that. What I would do is I would get a book, What a First Grader Needs to Know. They would have all the subjects. I would pick a couple of pages per subject. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we used to do it twice a week, and he would do it. And that's it. And we did it for first, second, third grade. Now, third grade, I gave him the option. I said, you could always, he would see other kids that he was friends with in the neighborhood go to school. So I said, you're more than welcome to see what other kids are doing. If you want to check out school, feel free. I always gave him choices. And that's why my son can think for himself, because I've always asked him what he wanted. And I listened to him, because that was the one thing I was never listened to. I was always told I didn't know, but I did know. And I actually had to undo everything that I was taught to get back to what I knew already as an adult. So I didn't have to worry. There was kids in the neighborhood, there was kids in the activities, and my son was naturally just social. He would talk to anybody and play with anybody. We'd go to a park and he would make a friend. So we did that for a while, and then he decided to go to third grade. He went. He was an A student there. The teacher at the teacher's conference asked me what I was doing with my son, because he just loves learning and they wish they could make their other students like that. And I because I just let him be him. I didn't make him have to be a certain way. I didn't have expectations. He could just be him, and I listened to him and I honored what his interests were. And then when we started getting to, he did third grade, it was amazing. Fourth grade, it wasn't so good. He decided to go back to homeschool. And then when we got to like 6th, 7th grade, we were doing the book, What a 6th grader, 7th grader needs to know. And I had to start getting help because I couldn't do the work. I couldn't remember the math. And I'm like, okay, you don't need this. You don't need this. So we're not going to spend time on this. This is ridiculous. Find something else. So he took computer class. He was still doing some different activities. And then we kind of just decided, you know what? We just kind of went to Unschool. So my son basically guides himself, whatever he's interested in. Now he is lacking a little bit because of this year. We lost our homeschool group because of this lockdown, and they ended up being all liberals. So they all think you need a mask, and homeschool moms think in this way. Some people homeschool because they can't function in the real world, and that's you find that in homeschoolers sometimes. Sometimes you find really like self-directed, freedom-loving. I didn't find that. So now my son is going to be 15 next month, and I don't have any qualms. He does what I do. So I had to teach myself economics, Austrian versus Keynesian economics. I learned cryptocurrencies. We're learning about the Constitution. He understands everything that's going on in the world today about the corruption versus the good. So it's kind of like living a history lesson. And he understands cash flow. He understands passive income versus trading time for money. All the rich dad philosophy. He was raised as a chiropractor's kid, so he's never been to a medical doctor. He doesn't do drugs. He knows how to rest himself and heal himself and listen to his body. He knows when he guides himself to eat more vegetables and drink water. I don't bug him about it at all. I let him eat the candy. I let him have the soda. I let him figure out how it makes him feel. And I never put judgment there. I always just made suggestions. He is the most amazing self-guided person I've ever seen. I wish I could be more like him. And so, I think for his next step, when all this finally opens up and we ever get back out of this war we're in, I would recommend him starting to get a mentor, like a Tony Robbins type. How to build your empire, what's it going to look like? And I think he should go get a part-time job and get a job and be in the world and see what it's like to have a job and to experience that and try different things and build your empire on the side. Create your financial statement. Know how to create different streams of income to support you. That's how you become a self-developed person. You become a leader in your own life. So that's my journey. I don't think about college. I mean, I was around homeschool people who they're doing homeschool and they're worried about getting them into college. I'm like, what's the point? College is such a waste of time. And now with the liberal agenda in there, oh my God, and they don't teach you anything. So I wanted him to find a mentor. I love the Dollar Vigilante. Maybe we can get to an anarcho-capitalist program and we can meet like-minded people there and he can work on projects, or he loves video gaming, so he might create his own video game, whatever he wants to do. I think he should try it all. I want us to travel again, and so he can experience different cultures and different kinds of people, because that's how you learn too. So I'm so out of the mainstream when it comes to education, and I have been, because I was just so pissed off that it didn't prepare me. And I've spent all my life, I'll be 47 this month, and I've spent my whole life having to learn what I need to know. And I'm grateful for that, because it's made me the person I am, because I have a lot of personal freedom because of that. I highly recommend everybody get on the train and start creating your best life. That's where you're going to find your joy. That's where you're going to find your purpose. That's where you're going to find your inspiration. And so basically that's it. I'm pretty free about it. Don't get me wrong. There were times where, when he was little, I questioned a little bit. Am I doing the right thing? Is he going to be stuck in the future because I didn't do something? He's not. He's not. It became clearer and clearer. Just, I was on the right path, especially where we are today. I'm so glad I didn't put him in the traditional educational system. And it's showing me more and more than ever that it's just not necessary. We got to clean it up. So I hope that helps. I hope you're all having an amazing day, and thanks for watching.